Now to our third speaker, one from a younger generation who has achieved so much in such a short time, Natalie Kyriacou, OAN. An environmentalist, author, social entrepreneur, working at the intersection of nature, climate justice, and civic engagement. Founder of My Green World, author of the bestseller Nature's Last Dance last year, board director at the Foundation for National Parks and Wildlife, UNESCO Green Citizens Pathfinder, and national ambassador for the Australian Conservation Foundation. Natalie credits her Greek Cypriot heritage with shaping her worldview and approach to storytelling. We look forward to your address.
How do you think we will be written about in history books? Imagine it's 500 years from now. How would these future humans, or humanoids, describe what the world looked like in 2026? How would they explain the rules that guided how we lived in 2026? I'll start. We had access to more information than any civilization in human history, and we used it chiefly to quarrel with strangers on small glowing rectangles owned by hairless billionaires who discovered that they could monetize human misery, vanity, and emotional instability. We had robust scientific data. Unlike any generation before us, and we used it to form conspiracy theories, deny climate change, and perfect plastic surgery techniques. We built an economic system that prospered from oil spills, war, cancer, drug addiction, gambling addiction, mental health crisis, and private prisons, but we didn't consider human or environmental health. We also invented social media, a tool capable of connecting humanity across continents, and it promptly addicted us, surveilled us, radicalised us, destroyed our attention spans, damaged our children psychologically, and gave teenagers eating disorders. We had institutions to govern the world. Often there would be big events where world leaders would gather to solve problems. These events functioned much like a school group project, which involved grand objectives paired with the unspoken understanding that no one was really actually going to do anything. Every 3 years, millions of people would gather in school halls to perform a sacred ritual. They would vote between a small number of very similar-looking men who would go on to lead the country. Then, having performed this sacred election ritual, voters would spend the following years ignoring politics entirely while binge-watching reality TV and listening to male podcast hosts discuss protein supplements and whether or not women's rights was ruining civilization. We were the only species that actively debated whether or not we should maintain the environmental conditions necessary for our own continued existence. Ensuring the health of things like the atmosphere and forests and oceans and rivers and animals would presumably be an obvious priority for a species that rely entirely on those things to survive, something that we could all agree on. But no, we couldn't agree on that. Environmental debates became so tedious that by the end of it, even the environmentalists were sick of the environment. Children were starving en masse, and though I'm good. Children were starving en masse, and though we had the ability to stop that, we chose not to. Oh my God, that's embarrassing. A very small number of individuals accumulated more wealth than entire nations, and then they used it to purchase yachts, media companies, private space programs, and often just bought the political system itself. Humans are unique, not in the impressive way like an octopus that can change colours, but like a person that clips their toenails on the bus. The uniqueness lies in the absurdity. We have split the atom, we've cracked the genetic code, and we've hurtled expensive metal objects into space, often with people inside, just to see if we could. We've built cities that scrape the sky, machines that think, and we've built a global communications network that allows people to yell at each other from any time of the day and any place of the world. But when it comes to the question of whether we should keep our own planet habitable and our own people alive, we remain curiously undecided. We have turned the simple matter of survival into an endless controversy. And to be clear, these things happen because we allow them to. There is nothing inevitable about the way that we run our economies or draft our laws or govern our societies. These systems have no independent existence. They exist because we will them to. They are human constructs. These are the rules of our own making, rules that we just made up and follow with devotion. Unlike the laws of nature, like gravity, for example, which applies equally to everyone, human-made systems like economics, law and politics are made up and often structured to the advantage of a small and select group of people. And that is why gravity applies to everybody, but tax loopholes do not. And these human constructs, these human systems, they normalise the destruction of nature and communities. Human and environmental suffering persist not because we lack alternatives, but because we allow it to remain profitable, socially tolerated and politically viable. But the world does not have to work this way. We made it this way, and that means we can make it work differently. Like all human-made systems, they can be rewritten, assuming, of course, that we want to. So we need to remake the world. But frankly, humans can't be trusted to take on this job. We just are simply not qualified. We have proven time and time again that we are not good at taking care of each other and we are not good at taking care of the planet. So perhaps it's time that we stop looking exclusively to ourselves for guidance. With that in mind, here are 5 things that we can learn about fixing the world from things that aren't human. These are lessons from nature. Lesson 1, penguins. During Antarctic winters, emperor penguins form a tight huddle together to keep warm. And every minute or every 30 to 60 seconds, the entire group moves, allowing the penguins on the outer edge of the huddle to move into the warmer, sheltered centre of the huddle. This ensures no individual freezes on the outside of the group. The lesson here is survival depends on sharing hardship so no one is left to bear it alone. In penguin society, for example, there are no penguins that charter a private jet to escape to a remote island while everybody else suffers. Lesson 2, ravens. Ravens track how others behave, and they remember who is reliable and who is not. Individuals that cheat, harm, or behave aggressively can be avoided or excluded in future interactions. The lesson here is, in raven society, persistent cheaters do not get socially promoted, and they certainly don't become president. Lesson 3, honeybees. When honeybees need a new home, hundreds of scout bees fly out to inspect potential sites. On their return to the hive, each scout communicates the location of a potential new home for the hive to consider. And they do this by performing a waggle dance in front of their hive mates. Over the course of several days, the scouts spend hours dancing, each advocating for a possible location. As the days pass, consensus begins to emerge around the best option for a new home. The lesson here is that honeybees understand that healthy democracies depend on transparent information sharing, distributed participation, and rewarding the best available evidence. There is no single billionaire bee that controls the information. Lesson 4, forests. Forests survive because no single tree can monopolise resources indefinitely without weakening the broader system. Though they compete for sunlight and space, trees share water and nutrients through underground networks, and they also use those networks to communicate. Trees even send out distress signals to other trees, so when there's a drought or disease, the other trees will receive these signals. Importantly, when one species becomes too dominant, the ecosystem becomes more fragile and prone to pests and diseases. Trees have natural limits to growth. They can only take so much sunlight, water and space before growth becomes harder, slower and less efficient. The lesson here is healthy forests don't allow unlimited dominance by a single tree. No system survives unchecked monopolies, not even forests. When too much power sits in one place, or when one part of a system takes too many resources, the whole system becomes weaker. In the forest, there is no such thing as an oligarchy. Lesson 5, elephants. There is a photo that is going to come up of elephants. This is of 2 elephants that are mourning the death of another elephant. African elephants have a matriarchal society where the oldest, most experienced female usually leads the herd with wisdom, empathy and protective care rather than dominance. Elephant matriarchs guide the herd using experience. They remember water sources, droughts and dangers. Elephants care collectively for calves. They care for the injured and they care for the elderly, and they share wisdom across generations. The lesson here is success lies not in dominance, but empathy, wisdom and protection of others. And the other lesson is that perhaps having women lead societies isn't such a radical idea after all. The last few years have stripped away the illusion. We have seen plainly and without disguise what our systems have become. The mask is off. We see the decay. We see what emerges when power operates without restraint, without accountability and without conscience. The powers that emerge today are the ones who shield pedophiles or are pedophiles and lock up children and bomb hospitals and raise forests and profit off war. They are symptoms of these systems, systems that we have aided. The world as we know it is fracturing, and in its place, something new is taking shape. And the question is, what will we allow it to become? Too many of us have become complacent. We have allowed freedoms to be chipped away bit by bit. We have seen truth distorted. We have watched as the right to protest is eroded, as wealth, information and power concentrate into fewer and fewer hands. Too many of us have stood by while others suffered, reassuring ourselves with the most dangerous sentence of them all: at least it's not happening to me. Too many of us are living through machines and screens while the real world, the one that actually holds our bodies and forests and rivers and our air, becomes something we pass through rather than belong to. And somewhere in this process, too many of us have lost part of ourselves, our courage, our empathy, our social intelligence, our connection to nature, to community, to reality. And in doing so, we have forgotten something very simple. This world is shared. No species survives alone, and the greatest strength of a species is not singularity and dominance. It is diversity and ability to collaborate. And if I could make one request, it would be this. Remember your role in this world. You are not a spectator, you are a participant. The people with courage, so many of my friends and colleagues and people in this audience, are fighting every day, refusing to accept that this is inevitable, that this is the best that we can do, that this is the world we are handing our children. They are standing on the front lines, taking the brunt of the attacks, and they are wondering, where the hell is everybody? We need to be more like... We need to be more like penguins. We leave no one in the cold. We need to be more like ravens. We don't reward bad behaviour. We need to be more like honeybees. We build collective intelligence. We need to be more like forests. We keep power in check. We need to be more like elephants. We are guided by empathy. The future isn't just shaped through grand sweeping gestures, but in the little moments, the tiny choices that we make every day, the small actions that ripple outwards, in the fights that we refuse to abandon, in the status quo we refuse to accept, in the moments that we show up for one another, the moments that we choose empathy over apathy and kindness over cruelty and courage over silence. The world doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't. We made it this way. We tolerate it. We endorse it. And now we must unmake it. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie, for some rather sobering observations which hit the mark. Thank you.